Hey, we're here with Patterson Hood of the Drive-By Truckers. Thanks so much for taking the time, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be back up here in Toronto.
Yeah, last time you were here, you were touring Big To Do, and we talked to Mike Cooley about the record, and he hinted at the fact that there were more tracks already laid down, and now we have Go-Go Boots, and, it's been out since February, and we've had a lot of time to live with the record, and congratulations on making another complete album.
Well, thank you. I'm real proud of it. It's funny because when we went in to make the Big To Do, we had a definite album we wanted to make. I mean, there was which is probably not necessarily always a good thing. I think it sometimes gets, at least with us, gets us in trouble when we have too clear a vision going into it, because sometimes the best things that happen are kind of accidental.
Right.
And I don't mean that despairing against that record, because I'm real proud of that record, but we definitely had a specific record we wanted to make, but we had all these other songs that didn't fit that, and rather than wait 2 more years to do anything with them, we were in the studio, we were rolling, it was going really, really good in there, and so we just recorded everything and figured we'd sort it out that way, sort it out on the back end, and which was really easy because they kind of divided themselves, as it went. We kind of knew when we were cutting a song which album it was going to end up being on. But so we ended up with about nearly 40 songs, and
so there's more than
no, that's it. That's
That's
it.
it?
That's it. Yeah, we've burn, erase, bonus tracks, stuff for tribute stuff, whatever else that we have to do. So it's pretty much all been used. There's nothing really laying around that I could ever see in the light of day at this point.
Is the process the same? You write your tunes, Mike writes his tunes, and then you come together.
Writes hers, yeah.
And Shauna writes hers, and then you come together and you decide what tunes are going to fit where and how it's all going to
Sure.
roll out.
Sure, it's kind of like once you bring the song to the band, you throw it to the wolves, and fortunately, I have a lot of respect for the wolves, so I'm generally pretty fine with what they do with it. But I kind of give up most control once I play the song for the band. It becomes their song,
Right.
and what they do with it. I mean, I guess Mike or I or whatever have a certain amount. Whoever wrote it probably has a certain amount of veto power if needed, but that hardly ever happens. It's almost always. If it ever does happen, it would be probably in the mixing stage. But I mean, I've got such a world of respect for the guys I play with and guys and gal I play with that I'm always generally just kind of astounded with what cool stuff they do with the songs I write.
I guess nine albums in, you kind of can sense probably even when you're writing these songs how the band is going to interpret these things, right?
Mostly.
Yeah.
Cooley's the wild card. I don't really ever know what he's going to do, you
Right.
know. But beyond that, I kind of usually have a pretty good gut feeling with the direction it's going to go, and Neff never ceases to come up with some kind of counter melody, or particularly when he's playing steel, that's just stunning to me, and I never necessarily know what it's going to be, but I always like it, and so I'm kind of writing knowing that that's going to be part of it, and that's always a good thing.
Do you guys ever think about writing together? I mean,
No.
No?
Cooley would hate it for starters,
Right.
and he's extremely private about that, and he doesn't like to talk about his songs. I don't mind talking about mine. I'm pretty wide open about it, but he doesn't like any of that, and for us to write together would involve having a conversation,
Right.
and that would not probably be good. So we generally, it's funny, even in the studio working on records, we generally don't talk about it much, what we're
Right.
doing. If any conversations generally, about lunch or dinner or something he read or I read or whatever, it's generally not about the music, and a lot of that's because of, I think, of Cooley's pretty
Right.
strong-willed about that, and I respect that.
It makes for great chemistry, probably, just to know going in exactly what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, and I mean, part of, I think, the part of what's made this band, whatever we are, is the chemistry between, all of us, but particularly Cooley and I, because we have the most history. We go back 26 years now,
Right.
and we couldn't be more different. And the
Right.
fact that if two people that polar opposite can find a way to coexist for a long time, there's probably going to be something real cool that comes out of it, you know. And you know, you think of even the classic relationships in rock, you know, very few of those lasted after 10 years. Or at least not to a point of still doing valid new music anyway. They may still go out and play their oldies, but they're not really, you know, making good new records, most of them. And after, you know, it's after 10 years or so, and we're in our third decade, and I think it's probably better than it's ever been.
Do you think that, I mean, and boy has the industry changed, and you guys were always kind of indie darlings, but now the industry is such that you kind of have to be an indie darling. You kind of have to be an indie musician, DIY, and doing it on your own. And you guys practically invented that system.
Yeah, I mean, the collapse of the music industry probably served us pretty well, because it eliminated having to compete with the big machine all the time, and all of a sudden it leveled the playing field, and bands like us that have been out here, you know, look at My Morning Jacket. They've got a top 5 record this week or last week or something, and you know, they're another band like that I think it's really benefited, because when all that infrastructure got taken away, the bands that could really shine were the ones that could go out there and actually work a crowd, you know, and I use them because they're such a good example of that. They're such a great live band, but other bands like that, and I think we've benefited from that for sure.
There's other bands from your hometown, or from
Absolutely.
From you know, Widespread Panic is another example of a band that never needed to rely on the machine, built their own machine, right?
And kind of you know, of Montreal's from our hometown, right. and they're kind of an odd one, because a lot of what they do musically is stuff that's generally associated with the, you know, it's almost like if they'd been around 10 years earlier, they might have really benefited from some of that machine apparatus, but they are as much an indie band as anybody. I mean, they came up putting out their own stuff and recording at, you know, Kevin's house, and you know, and they've become a really huge band now, totally on their own terms. It never ceases to amaze me, the bands that can still come out of that town after all these years.
I guess the thing about it is, if you write good music and you tour that music and people relate to the music you're making, you'll build your own machine probably.
Yeah, theoretically, you know, hopefully.
Let's talk about Go-Go Boots for a bit, because we've had a chance to live with the record. Is it the most Muscle Shoals record since the early days of this band? I mean, the soul, alt country feel combined for one record is really apparent on this record.
Yeah, it's, you know, I don't look at it so much as a departure as much as a culmination. I mean, you know, it's something it's always kind of been there, but it's mostly been under the surface, or you know, there have been other things for people to focus on and not really notice that. I mean, our first couple of records were pretty country based, you know, Gangsta Billy and Pizza Deliverance, and you know, on our first album was Sandwiches for the Road, which was about Eddie Hinton, and we do the 2 Eddie Hinton songs on this record. So it really all kind of ties in with things from our past, but it's never been the focal point as much. Plus, we did the Betty LaVette record, and we did the Booker T record, and we did the record with Spooner, the Brighter Than Creation's Dark record was with Spooner Oldham, and all of that was definitely, you know, pushed us in the direction of what this record does. But I think this record is definitely kind of, at least for now, the culmination of that facet of the band.
Were the Eddie Hinton records, were you, are those songs that you decided to bring into the studio with you, or are you just gigging one day and say, hey, why don't we try Everybody Needs Love? We all know it.
Well, I always loved it. I actually didn't know it, but I've always loved it. We're all huge Eddie Hinton fans. You know, at any show, including tonight, you know, the music playing on the PA before we come out, probably, you know, half of it's Eddie Hinton.
What record, what if fans don't know, if your fans don't know, what's a good Eddie Hinton record for them to pick up?
Anyone you can actually find. That's the trick, is finding them. They're really hard. The best ones are out in England, and they're just as an import over here, called it's a series of records, the songwriting session records. The best one's the first of those. Dear Y'all is a phenomenally good record, and you can order it online from England from Zane Records. But almost everything else is out of print and really hard to find, and it's a shame because there's an audience for it. I mean, for years we've been playing that music on the PA before our shows, and we have people every night come up to our sound guy wanting to know who that is and where they can find it. And but as far as us recording it, we were asked to do a couple of songs for a tribute 45 that this guy in Cincinnati put out, and so we were in the middle of working on our record and just decided to devote a couple of studio days to working on those 2 songs for that. And we got really attached to what we did, and so we asked if we could have permission to put those 2 songs on our record, because doing those songs ended up causing several other songs that are on the record to happen. And it's like I was inspired by recording that to do Mercy Buckets, and you know, it just those 2 songs ended up really feeling like part of the record, as if we had written them ourselves, even though they were written, 30 years ago by Eddie Hinton.
But it's part of your DNA, right? And
sure. My dad played on those old records.
Right.
He played on the original Where's Eddie that Lulu recorded, that Eddie wrote, and he actually didn't play on Everybody Needs Love, but he played on almost every other song on that album that it's on. So, I can remember Eddie Hinton at my house when I was 3, 4, 5 years old. Him coming over to visit my dad. So I've always kind of grown up with his music, around me, and and so it was cool to get to record those songs and to kind of do our take on them. The songs are so good that it's almost a matter of just you just not screwing it up, because the songs are so great on their own.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of your own songs. You mentioned Mercy Buckets, but are there other songs on this record in particular that you're most proud of, that have came to life in the studio that in a different way than you would imagine they would when you were writing them?
I was really happy with the songwriting this time out. I was very, very happy with the songs. I felt like I had some of the better songs I've ever brought into the studio for this record, and of course I think the band's never been better. I really like the way the band plays on this record, and it's Used to Be a Cop is a song I'm particularly proud of. I'm proud of it as a piece of writing, and as well as really proud of the performance the band does on it. And it's been a good time for the band, for sure.
I guess touring so much enables you to really get into a pocket when you're in the studio and really turn things out. Probably.
Sure, absolutely. I wish we got to be in the studio more. I really enjoy that, and really enjoy recording with this band, because it's really just our only limits are our own imagination. Because I feel like the band's in a place where it can pretty much do anything I could dream up for us to do, they can do. And so that's a lot of fun.
You mentioned earlier My Morning Jacket, and Band of Horses have never been bigger, and there seems to be this. I hate saying resurgence or resurrection, but there seems to be something going on in the South, even with newer bands like Cage the Elephant, who are from the South, or Kings of Leon. Is there anything that you can point to down south that's going on right now that is inspiring such great music from that region of the United States?
Yeah, that's kind of the one thing that region of the United States has always done right. I mean, it's or not always maybe, but more often than not. Yeah. I mean, we're known for really bad politics and some really nasty history and some really great arts and literature and music, and that's it, and really good food if, you don't mind having a heart attack before you turn 40, I have a very conflicted relationship with my home region, which I guess has been a part of what my writing has been, and mine and Cooley's writing has been all these years, but, and that's one of the things he and I do have in common, but, it's not the easiest place to grow up liberal.
Right. Yeah, for sure. What are you listening to? I mean, besides your own music, what are you listening to on the bus?
I've gotten just nuts about the Low Anthem. Yeah. Their new record, I think, Smart Flesh, is just Absolutely a stunning record, and Kurt Vall's new record is fantastic. Really, really digging that. And I haven't seen him live yet, but I saw Low Anthem the other day. They were in Athens at the 40 Watt with Iron and Wine. That was
Wow.
They were great too.
That's
and,
a great new record.
It's
too.
a great record, and but those are probably my two big favorites. My all-time favorite band, Centromatic, they have a new album coming out this month, and it's killer. I've already got it. It's killer. It's really, really good, and I'm hoping it'll be a record that'll get them more attention moving forward, because it's kind of a reach out and grab your record, whereas their last couple have been great, but they've been more, if you're already a fan, you'll love it, but not necessarily the best introduction records for them. This one's like a really good, someone who's never heard the band could really fall in love with this record.
Cool.
So
we'll check it out. What do you're touring obviously probably throughout the summer?
All year. Yeah, we're touring, pretty much until New Year's, and then I hope not touring for a while.
Yeah.
We're really wanting to pull this off the roads for the majority of next year, and maybe even longer. I'd like to, whatever kind of hiatus we can afford. That's the tricks. We all have kids and stuff,
Right.
but we'll probably, I'm sure, be playing some one-offs and some short little runs, because we have to probably. But after this year, there won't be any big tours for maybe a couple of years.
Is the plan to just kick back and relax a little bit?
I
and,
wish.
and maybe write a little, or
that's definitely part of it. I mean, I've got 2 kids. Cooley's got 3 kids.
Right.
We all want to spend some time with our families, and because it's been kind of out of hand, particularly doing 2 records in a row like that.
Totally.
That we kind of underestimated the strain that was going to be, as far as the recording part was great, and we were on a roll. Next thing you know, we got 40 songs, and we were thrilled. But in order to pay off that studio time, we had to put both records out, and putting 2 albums out in 11-month period.
Yeah.
And having to do all the promotion and touring you do for a new release twice in a row now, and it's enough.
Yeah.
Probably won't ever do it that way again, unfortunately, because of that.
Is there any plans for solo stuff, or is it really the band right now? I know you put out a few records.
The band is definitely the big emphasis, but I have been thinking about doing another record. It's funny, a few months ago I would have said definitely no, but I actually wrote a whole bunch of songs really recently that, like, pretty much an album's worth of songs that's definitely not a trucker record. And so I'm giving a lot of serious thought to going in and recording and, doing some kind of, it'll be a pretty stripped down record, and maybe even, have like, cello player and stuff on it. Kind of a little different than what the band does. It definitely won't be a big, loud rock record, but I'm really, really proud of these new songs. So we'll see. That very well may happen.
Well, man, I thank you for both records, and I know it's tough to put out 2 records and to tour and to be on the road, but they're 2 great records, and in particular, I really like Go-Go Boots. So thanks so much for putting them out, and thanks for taking the time today. Really appreciate it.
Man, thank you very much.
Cheers, man.